Norwegian-supplied NASAMS air defense systems have already shut down approximately 900 Russian aerial threats with a success rate of 94%, proving its high effectiveness in Ukraine. This was reported by the Norwegian media Aftenposten, citing Colonel Troite of the Norwegian Air Force. He told journalists that the system is in use every day to protect Ukraine's most critical population centers, including Kyiv. Ukrainian forces who trained in Norway have successfully deployed NASAMS in combat since Kyiv started receiving the systems in November 2022. Aftenposten also reported that nearly 60% of the threats intercepted by NASAMS were Russian cruise missiles. Ukrainian Defense Intelligence chief Kyrylo Budanov warned that Poland might be the next Russian target if Ukraine falls. Speaking at a special session of the Yalta European Strategy Conference, Budanov outlined a potential scenario in which Russia, if successful in occupying Ukraine, could target other European countries.
Russia doesn't view itself as a federation. It thinks it's an empire. Russia believes that the empire that fits the current ruling party is the example of a Soviet Union, although this includes countries from the Warsaw Pact. This fixation is not going anywhere. Let's imagine for a moment the worst possible outcome. Presumably, 3 countries unite as one, however impossible that might be. The next in line would be Poland.
French President Emmanuel Macron held a video conference with European Union leaders to debrief them on his meeting with President Trump in Washington on Monday. European Council President Antonio Costa posted on X that he had organized this video call in preparation for a special European Council next week, where leaders will gather to discuss support for Ukraine and strengthening European security. Meanwhile, over the weekend, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer will host a summit of world leaders to discuss Russia's ongoing war in Ukraine. According to Bloomberg, this meeting will serve as a follow-up to discussions held in Paris last week.
I have spoken to President Zelenskyy a number of times. I spoke to him on Wednesday night as the democratic elected leader in Ukraine. I spoke to him again on Saturday. I have spoken to President Macron this afternoon on his return to France, and I am hosting a number of countries at the weekend for us to continue to discuss how we go forward together as allies in light of the situation that we face.
Dozens of delegates from around the world decided to walk out in support of Ukraine during Russia's speech at the UN Human Rights Council on Wednesday.
We, along with our European and international partners, just walked out of the Human Rights Council as the Russian Deputy Foreign Minister spoke, because we stand with Ukraine and we stand in favour of a just and enduring peace in line with the UN Charter and with international law.
The delegates, including the ambassadors of France, Germany and the UK, gathered outside the room where the session was taking place to mark 3 years since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine.
There is a question for the entire world. If we let slide what happened with Ukraine without reacting, without saying to which point that what Russia did is unacceptable, we would open the door to a disintegration of fundamental principles on which the United Nations was founded.
In his speech to the UN Human Rights Council, Russia's deputy foreign minister accused Ukraine of a violation of fundamental human rights, while the Ukrainian representative decried Russia for defying international law against Ukrainians with impunity. Closed-door negotiations between US and Russian delegations have started in Istanbul, reported Radio Liberty. Teams consisting of high-level diplomats and experts are going to discuss the ways to restore diplomatic missions, reported the Russian foreign minister on February 26. According to Reuters, citing a US Department of State representative, the agenda includes staffing, visas, diplomatic banking operations, and other logistical matters. The talks will not cover Ukraine or security and policy issues. Restoration of normal diplomatic functions was previously agreed during negotiations in Riyadh on February 18. Over the past decade, the US and Russia have expelled hundreds of diplomats in a series of tit-for-tat moves, severely limiting the operations of their embassies. North Korea appears to have sent additional troops to Russia to aid in its war against Ukraine, reported South Korean Yonhap News, citing the National Intelligence Service. However, the exact number of newly deployed soldiers is still being assessed. The report states that the DPRK troops were redeployed to the frontline area of the Kursk region in early February, after nearly a month of inactivity. Last month, UN had mentioned that between 1,000 and 3,000 North Korean troops were transported via Russian cargo ships and military aircraft to Kursk between January and February. In 2024, Pyongyang reportedly sent around 11,000 soldiers to Russia's Kursk region. As of the end of January, nearly 4,000 North Korean troops were killed in battles in that area, stated President Zelenskyy. President Zelenskyy will visit Washington on Friday. This was stated by President Trump on February 26. During a cabinet meeting at the White House, Trump stated that Kyiv and Washington are going to sign an agreement particularly on rare earth minerals.
President Zelenskyy is going to be coming on Friday. That's now confirmed, and we're going to be signing an agreement which will be a very big agreement. And I want to thank Howard and Scott for the job you guys did in putting it together. Really did an amazing job. And that'll be on rare earth and other things.
In his evening address, President Zelenskyy confirmed that Ukrainian teams are working with the US and Kyiv is preparing for negotiations as early as this Friday.
The agreement with America, support for our state and people, guarantees of peace and security. This is the key to ensuring that Russia will no longer destroy the lives of other nations. I will meet with President Trump. For me and for all of us in the world, it is crucial that America's assistance is not stopped. Strength is essential on the path to peace.
Meanwhile, the European Council President Antonio Costa invited Zelenskyy to take part in a special European Council meeting in Brussels on March 6, where EU leaders will discuss European security as well as support for Ukraine. The Romanian Senate has approved 2 bills that grant the military authority to shoot down unauthorized drones and regulate the conduct of military operations on Romanian territory during peacetime. The vote took place on February 26. The bill on national airspace control passed with 78 votes in favor, 11 against, and 2 abstentions. A second bill, which outlines the framework for military missions and operations within Romania, was also approved. 15 countries will allocate 700 million euros for demining efforts in Ukraine in the next 10 years, reported the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. This decision was agreed during the 11th meeting of the demining coalition, gathering nearly 40 officials that took place in Vilnius, Lithuania. The 10-year-long plan includes funding the purchase of demining equipment to help rid the Ukrainian soil of explosives. The Ukrainian ministry also noted that further plans include forming working groups to explore innovations in demining, including UAVs and AI. France has been in talks with Ukraine about access to Ukrainian minerals for its defense industry since last fall, reported the French Minister of the Armed Forces, Sébastien Lecornu. In an interview with Radio France, he noted that Paris has been working on this topic for several months, since President Zelenskyy included the issue of raw materials in his victory plan. Meanwhile, France is interested in diversifying supplies of vital minerals.
We are speaking about this issue for our own French needs. I have defense industries that will need access to a certain number of raw materials in the years to come. Our defense industry is going to need a number of key raw materials in our own weapons systems, not just for next year, but for the next 30 or 40 years.
Lecornu added that he was asked to initiate discussion on the topic by President Macron. The talks have been held on a national level with Ukrainian counterparts since October 2024. At the same time, according to the French minister, France's request is not an attempt to recover funds invested in Ukraine's defense or other sectors. Ukrainian developers took a page out of the war history books with their latest invention, which is flooding the frontline, dozens of them already in air. While the aerostat has been a staple in air reconnaissance since the 18th century, the Ukrainian Aero Bavovna team decided to modernize its role in the 21st century. The CEO of the company developing modern aerostat platforms explains that they provide a forgotten yet effective solution where conventional means are useless. The United24 Media team went to witness the resurgence of these systems on the battlefield.
Today we teaching one of the units to operate it. They would operate it with radio repeater for digital radio comms, but also they can use for radio repeaters for FPV drones, ground drones. For now, on the front line, it's dozens of them already working. They show really good results. They survive for long enough and bring connectivity where it really matters for Ukrainian military. This year, it would be not dozens of them on the front line, but thousands.